This is Michael Woodward, and this is episode 78 of the Jumblethink podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink podcast, a podcast focused on telling the stories of dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers. Along the way, we give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big idea and dream and create the world you want to live in. Our guest on today's episode is Nathan Hirsch. More about Nathan in a moment. On the podcast this Monday is Mark Podolsky. He is an expert in buying and selling raw land. It's a very fascinating episode. We talk about how you can take raw land and make an investment, create passive income, and do some really cool stuff. It's a fun episode. Make sure to check that out this Monday. The journey of chasing and creating your own big idea and dream is often a very scary place to be, filled with fear and loneliness and doubt. Well, we want to help, and we're excited to announce that coming soon, we'll be launching our first ever virtual idea camp, and we want you to be there. To find out more about the idea camps, swing on over to jumblethink.com, scroll down on the page and find the newsletter section, sign up for the newsletter, and you will be the first to know when we launch the idea camps, how you can get involved and start chasing that big idea and dream that you have in your own life. Now let's jump into today's episode with Nathan Hirsch. I am super excited about today's guest. His name is Nathan Hirsch. He is a serial entrepreneur and an expert in remote hiring. I know you have a big idea and dream, and sometimes it's hard to know how you can accomplish it. Well, you can't do it by being on your own. So we talk with Nathan about how to create a team of remote workers using his marketplace for freelancers. We also talk about the power of using freelancers to accomplish that big idea, a dream, or to grow your company. It's a very fun episode, so let's jump into the conversation with Nathan Hirsch, co-founder and CEO of FreeUp. Hey, Nathan, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing really, really good. I'm super excited to talk to you about what you do.
Yeah, me too. I'm very passionate about hiring. It's something I've been doing for a long time. And anytime you get a chance to talk about hiring with other business owners, it's a lot of fun.
Now, before we really dive into the interview, I just want to ask the question. I know that you're from the Orlando area. How are things down there?
Oh, thanks for asking. Honestly, I was fortunate. I lost internet for half a day. That was the extent of my damage. But there are plenty of people that I work with that had a lot more. I know a lot of people at my girlfriend's job lost power for weeks. So I'm one of the lucky ones. We're right in the middle of Orlando, so we didn't really get hit like the Miami and the beach areas, but still.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing well, and I'm really glad that the storm wasn't nearly as bad in Florida as anticipated.
Absolutely. Scary stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Before we dive in and talk about what you're building with FreeUp, I want to know a little bit about your backstory. How did you get to the place of FreeUp, and what did you do before that?
Yeah, so I've never had a real job after college. I started off as a broke college student looking for extra beer money on the side. I started buying and selling textbooks because I got upset that the school bookstore was ripping me off at the end of every semester. I would take this book that I had bought for hundreds of dollars, get them for or sell it back to them for pennies on the dollar, and then they would jack up the price again at the end of the beginning of the first semester. So I started cutting them off. Before I knew it, I had lines out the door of people trying to sell me their textbooks. Made a good amount of money doing that, and that led me to Amazon, because when I was selling all these books to different online vendors, one day I came across Amazon and I became addicted with it, obsessed. And this was back when they were mostly doing books, and there were only a few sellers doing other things. So from there, I did a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out every possible way to make money on Amazon. I didn't have money to buy a lot of inventory. I didn't have a warehouse to put anything in, and it was all new. Right now, there's all these courses and stuff. Back then, no one really knew what they were doing. So from trying to sell really cool products like DVDs and TVs and computers and all that, I realized I couldn't sell it. And then I somehow found out that I was really good at selling baby products and home goods and stuff that I didn't even use, but I could get it to sell. So I grew this multi-million-dollar Amazon baby store out of my college frat house, if you can imagine that, making every good and bad decision that a young business owner makes. And from there, I started hiring my first employees. One of my first hires is my business partner, Connor, who's been my business partner for 8+ years. So I got very fortunate. But I also made a lot of bad hires along the way. And when I learned about outsourcing and using different marketplaces to get access to remote workers from around the world, I became addicted to it because I knew that I was struggling with the amount of time I had in the day, the amount of ideas I had, the amount of projects I wanted to complete. And this was a great way to get access to talent to complete these projects. But what I quickly found out was, although the projects were getting done faster, now my time had shifted from completing projects and expanding the business to just HR, to just going through and posting a job and getting hundreds of applicants and interviewing them one by one. And as I was talking to other sellers and business owners, I realized they were having the same frustration. So I wanted there to be a faster way. And one day I came up with the idea of building that, where I would take this network, my Rolodex of freelancers that I knew really well, and make them available quickly to people that needed a job, where they could just put in a request. I fill that request quickly with someone I've already vetted that I know will do a good job. And that business took off. And all of a sudden, these people that were using these Amazon workers, all of a sudden they wanted bookkeepers and graphic designers and writers and stuff outside my Amazon scope. So I did a lot of research and homework on how to recruit for different positions. And that's really how the FreeUp marketplace was born, where we vet hundreds of applicants every week to get into the marketplace, take the top 1% and make them available to clients quickly. So that's how I went from a 20-year-old broke college student to owning 2 companies.
Yeah. So has entrepreneurship kind of run in your veins from when you were a kid? When did this discovery for creating stuff and finding ways to create revenue, when did that passion really start?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my dad's a teacher. My mom's a teacher too, but she ran her own school. So I kind of had a little bit of entrepreneur genes in there. My aunt's run her own company. But a lot of it was just real life experiences. My parents always made me pay for everything. So I would go out and get a job and work 40 hours a week during summers. And I worked retail a lot, working at Aaron's and Firestone, and had some really great internships. But I also realized that I didn't like it. It wasn't motivating. Working for other people for me, it just didn't work. I knew that, yes, I could do it, and I got good grades in school, and I could get by, but I would never be happy doing it. So I looked at the CEO, Dave Edwards, who was a mentor for me when I was an intern. My mom got me that job, and he could be anywhere. He could be on the golf course working. And I remember talking to him, and he was just like, the freedom I have is incredible. I can be anywhere in the world and no one's telling me what to do. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I want this. But at the same time, what do I know about starting a company? And I'm also a logical person. I know that most businesses fail. So it was always something that I wanted to do, but it wasn't realistic until I did a lot of trial and error in college.
That's really cool. Now, that lesson that your parents taught you when you were younger, that lesson of if you want something, it shouldn't be just given to you. How has that impacted your drive in what you do?
So at the time, I hated it. I grew up in a very wealthy neighborhood where I lived in the town over. So my dad taught in the wealthy neighborhood, but we lived right outside of it. So I went to school with all these kids. Their parents were doctors, lawyers, dentists. They had, whether it was just nice houses or some of them even had private jets. And I always wanted that lifestyle where the parents paid for everything. But it really taught me to work hard. And if you want something, you have to get it. And that's really more what real life is like anyway. So at the time, I didn't like it. Looking back, it was probably one of the best things that shaped me as a human being. And it's something that even now, I mean, I don't take anything for granted. You have so many ups and downs in businesses. The fact that I'm responsible for everything, whether it's my dog, my condo, my expenses, all that kind of stuff, it just really makes you a human being that cares and goes all in when something comes up.
That's really cool. Now, you've created this company called FreeUp, and you're doing something kind of fun. Tell us about it, what you're doing to help people looking for work, and what you're doing to help businesses that are trying to maybe fill some gaps in their staffing needs or fill some holes in spaces that they might not be experts.
Definitely. So one of the things I didn't like about my Amazon business, and it was a lot of fun at first, but after doing it for 5+ years, at the end of the day, it was like, all right, I'm pushing product, I'm adding money to my bank account. Who am I really helping? It's just kind of helping me and my team a little bit and all that. So with FreeUp, it's been awesome because I get to interact and meet and help freelancers from all over the world grow their business and do what they're passionate about and provide for their families. I just got back from a conference. I get to meet thousands of clients from all over the world who help them pursue their dreams. Maybe they have a product idea that they're trying to get to market or they're trying to grow their business. And it's all the same hassles that I had as a young entrepreneur with hiring. Everyone has it and no one has solved it. So with the solution of we vet the workers before they come in. You sign up. It's free. You submit a ticket. We fill that ticket within 24 hours. If you like the worker, you can hire them. If not, you put feedback in the ticket and send it back to us. It makes it super fast. And on the back end, we have workers from $5 to $50 an hour, both U.S. and non-U.S. for every skill set. And on the back end of that, we have excellent customer service and we're insurance against turnover. If a worker quits for any reason, we cover all replacement costs and get you a new worker right away. So I really took every good and bad hiring experience from all the other marketplaces and tweaked it to be my own good experience that I thought clients would enjoy, and I'm fortunate enough that they have.
Now, there are other companies that are out there like Upwork and places like that. How do you differ from what they're doing? Because I definitely see some differences. How are you different than those kind of companies?
Yeah, like I tell clients, and I'm not a person that bashes my competition, there's pros and cons to everything. You go on Upwork, they're obviously a lot bigger than we are. They have a much bigger selection. They're much more well-known. With us, it's a lot faster. You don't have to post a job. You don't have to wait for people to apply. We fill tickets within 24 hours, usually a few hours, and you get that more personalized support. And on top of that, I mean, I'm very approachable, very contactable, and we have a lot of great resources on how to take it to the next level because honestly, hiring the worker, finding the worker is just step one. You still have to onboard them. You still have to set the expectations and do the project and motivate them and keep them happy long-term and reduce turnover. And then we also add that guarantee that I haven't heard of other marketplaces having. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons that they have better software than us. They have bigger software budgets and we're kind of catching up in that regard. But yeah, I mean, we really tried to come up with something that was different that could compete with them because all the people that have a bad experience on Upwork, it's always the same complaints over and over and over, and no one is addressing them.
You know, one of the things you just said there was accessibility. I went to your website, just looking through it, trying to figure out, what is it that you do? And, I'm flipping through and all of a sudden it says, set up a meeting with Nathan. And I'm like, well, you don't see that on some of these big sourcing type websites. And that accessibility, that's pretty special.
Absolutely. And I'm fortunate enough that all the workers on the marketplace, there's 700 plus of them, rarely have issues. They do an incredible job. They treat their clients well. They keep them happy. So I'm not spending all day dealing with client issues and people contacting me for complaints because they do such a good job. And that's not to say that there aren't issues. These are real people. Even if you take the best VA and you give them to 100 different clients, at least one of them is not going to be the perfect fit for each other. But at the same time, it allows me to free up my time to meet with new clients, to go to conferences, to really be available. And even outside of booking the calendar, I mean, my clients add me on Skype. They message me all day. I have a team of people that monitor my emails and Skype because I get hundreds of them every day, if not thousands. Wow. And when I'm in a meeting, when I'm sleeping, there's always someone to take care of it. And when I wake up in the morning, it's like, hey, here are 5 people that we wanted to escalate to you or whatever it is. So it's just being available, making sure that if issues do come up, they get solved quickly and people get taken care of. And that's on both sides. I mean, I personally don't want to be like Amazon where it's all about the customer and it's never about the seller. Yeah. We want to keep the workers happy too. The marketplace is nothing without these talented workers. So it's in our best interest to make sure they're happy as much as the clients.
So in a way, you're almost playing a little bit of a matchmaker.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it's funny because clients and workers have the same issues. Clients don't like posting for jobs and interviewing people, and workers don't like interviewing and competing with hundreds of people for one job that they want. They want clients brought to them. Clients want workers brought to them. And being able to be that fast way of making those matches quickly, it brings a lot of value to people.
I owned an agency, still do. We do web work, we do graphic design, we do a whole slew of different features for our clients, and we've had big teams of employees. We've worked with freelancers. I've used Upwork, and one of my struggles when it comes to staffing our team and our needs often is that filtration. Is this person going to be quality? Are they going to help me solve the problem I need for my customers? And are they dependable? And that's one of the things that's hard to do through an Upwork. You are that censoring agent trying to filter through all of the people that you could connect with. So it's really powerful to have that advocate for you to help you in that process.
Absolutely. And I mean, when we're vetting people, we're looking for skill, attitude, and communication. If you think of every bad hiring experience, and I'm sure you've had a bunch of them as well, it's always either they didn't have the skill that they said they had, either their attitude wasn't good, they cared more about their paycheck than they do about the project or what they're passionate about, or their communication is poor. And I don't care how talented you are, I don't care what your attitude is, if you can't communicate with me at a high level, it's never going to work out. So really focusing on those three things so our clients don't have to is incredibly important.
There is a huge discussion in the world of business going on, and it revolves around people that work on site versus remote versus mixed teams, and the benefits to why you'd want to do that hit each person and each business differently. In your experience with working with people that work on site, working remote, working in kind of a mixed environment, what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks, and how can we learn from that?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of it is personal preference. Me, for example, I opened up an office when I moved down to Florida. I hired full-time employees, and I realized that it took up more of my time to do that. I had all these personal issues and drama that would come up, which I don't like. I'm not a person that likes drama. I like to keep it very much focused on the work. And for me, I was paying these people $50,000 a year plus benefits, plus doing all this, and I felt like even quarter of their time wasn't spent on high-level work. It wasn't worth it for me. So for me, hiring these people remote, my biggest point is not only am I not limited to the talent that's in my town and the towns around me, but I'm also no longer just competing with all the businesses around me for that same talent, driving price up, leading to turnover and people leaving and not being committed. But I get access to people from all over the world now at different talent levels, different price points, different cultures, different experience that they get to bring to the table. I've become good at hiring remote and managing remote teams and even motivating and keep making it so people want to be here and feel like they're important. And for me, that's been a lot easier than hiring that full-time team or that internal team. Although I have plenty of clients that disagree, and they have a mix. They still have employees maybe in their warehouse or in their office, and then they hire some remote workers to complement them, and that's fine too. But we're getting to the point now where if you're not taking advantage of remote workers in some capacity, all your competition has a huge advantage. Even if you're a doctor, lawyer, dentist, which I have plenty of clients that are, obviously you're not going to hire someone in the Philippines to be a nurse in your office, but you can hire someone to do your marketing, to come up with your logo, to run your Google ads, and utilizing remote workers is only going to help your business grow.
Now, are these people building long-term relationships, or are they filling specific needs along the journey of their business? So an example of that might be, for me, we have legacy clients that are on specific coding languages that we just don't support anymore, but their sites might need support still. So we go out and we find a contractor that can fill a void in that, or a freelancer, and we bring them in, they do the project, and then we move on. I've also had people that have become long-term freelancers that have worked for us, and we've had a long-term relationship with them, and they're using the same techniques that we use, and they're working on projects every week. So how does your service work in that kind of space?
Sure. So the workers are first come, first serve. There's no minimum or maximum. You can hire. We have clients who have hired a customer service rep in the Philippines full time, or a team of them, and they've had the same workers for 2+ years, or I guess 2 years, because we're 2 years in October. And then we have people that'll hire someone for a one-time project, or an hour a month, or 10 hours a week, or whatever it is. So if you hire someone for 10 hours a week, you're working directly with them. They're yours. We're never going to jump in and take them away from you. But if you hire someone for a one-time project and then you don't talk to them for 3 months and then you come back for more, they may or may not be available. In worst case, they might be like, hey, I can get to your project in a week or whatever it is. And I always encourage you to look long-term, even if you're hiring people for short-term projects. The last thing you want to do is every time you have a graphic design project to interview and meet new people. It's much better if you build a Rolodex of 2 to 3 designers you really like, 2 to 3 writers you really like. And then whenever you have a project, you can throw the project in a Skype chat and see who's available first to take it on. It's a much better strategy as a business owner.
Now, working with remote teams, there's a lot of issues to overcome. Communication, making sure it's good. Project management, making sure projects stay on task and on focus. There's messaging tools and all these different tools. What are some tips you can give to businesses that are looking at services like yours to help manage that process?
Definitely. And so you're dealing directly with the worker. It's not like you get a project manager from us. We're not an agency like you. We are a marketplace. But there are still a lot of tips that you can do to make sure that you have a good experience. So we provide a lot of free content. We always want to help people on the way. One of the best things that we have is a document called the Client Expectations Doc, which is a terrible name, but I haven't come up with anything better.
Yeah.
But it's a very easy doc. You fill it out. It has who's at your company, who are your contact points, what are your goals, what are your expectations, what are you trying to accomplish, what are your pet peeves, because how's someone going to know what you like and what you don't like? And it really lays everything out. So when you onboard someone, instead of onboarding every new worker for an hour, you can just hand them this piece of paper and be like, read it. Do you have any questions? And boom, it gives you that head start. The other thing that I recommend doing if it's project-based, and we have a one-time project doc too, but have the worker, and I do this with my developers, have the worker give you an estimate and also a delivery date. So if something's going to take 10 hours and get done by next Saturday, I will be like, especially if they're a new worker, are you sure you can do that? Do you want to overestimate it? And whatever they say, I hold them to it. And I only work with people that can actually stay to their word and get stuff done on time. And if they give you an estimate of 20 hours and then you get a bill for 30, you didn't approve that other 10 hours. You're not responsible for it, and FreeUp will back it up. And as long as you have everything in writing. So getting those estimates, getting those delivery dates so that there's never a time in the future where there's some kind of gray area, he said, she said over the phone, is incredibly important, especially when you're building new business relationships.
As a business owner, one of the things that's really significant to me, one of the things that I'm passionate about is creating a culture that people want to be a part of, and creating a community where it goes beyond just being an employee, it goes beyond just being a contractor, it goes beyond just being a freelancer, but it becomes more like family. And I think somewhere along the line as a culture, we've lost a little bit of that. How can we, as employers, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, really build culture and community into what we're building?
It's such a great question, and you're right. It's so important. And I preach this to my clients over and over and over, because I've had situations where people don't want to work for a client anymore because the culture is vicious, and it doesn't lead to productivity. It doesn't make people want to wake up in the morning and work for them, where the alternative is my internal team's incredible. I can't remember the last time someone quit from my internal team because they love being there. They know that their opinions are valued, that we want feedback, that we want them to share their ideas and really be a part of something. And we're brutally honest. We keep people accountable. We tell people when they do something well, when they do something poorly. We give people recognition when they do something great. And just having that open culture where people aren't scared to insult their boss and lose their job is so important. I mean, the culture starts with feedback. You have to create an atmosphere where people are willing to open up. It's one of those things where if I have a meeting with someone and they say, Nate, you're the best boss in the world, I love working for you, there's nothing that I would ever change, I just don't accept that answer. Like, you have to tell me some kind of feedback on how we can improve either me or as a company or something. And if you're not coming to the table every day with new ideas and new feedback on how to improve, you're not a great culture fit. And that all comes down to that hiring, because who are you to say, hey, this culture is the best culture? Every company can have their own culture, whether it is that sales vicious mentality or it is more of what you and I were talking about with the open feedback. But what's important is that you're recruiting people that fit whatever culture you're building for your company. So if I am going to start that real estate company where it's all about numbers and and that's the culture, I don't want to hire that warm and fuzzy person that might be a good fit for FreeUp.
Yeah.
So really identifying what your culture is and recruiting for that culture and only letting people in that fit that culture is going to save you a lot of time and hassle down the line.
I remember I had a good friend who said, it's always easier to ask the right people on the bus at the beginning than the wrong people to leave the bus at the end. And I think back to some people that worked on our team. We had incredible people on our team, but there was one person in my mind that I'm thinking of that who was phenomenal and great at what he did, but he was the wrong fit for our culture. But he was incredible, and he's gone on to do amazing things where he's gone on to, but we were the wrong culture for who he was and how he operated.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that same exact experience. You have awesome people. It's people I'm still in contact with. I'm still friends with them, but they just weren't a good fit. And honestly, that's on me. I should have done a better job vetting. I was a younger entrepreneur, and I thought that talent rules everything, but it's really not the case. You have to focus on that skill, on that attitude, that communication, and definitely whatever culture you're trying to accomplish for your business.
You have kind of pioneered your own journey, whether it was through the online e-commerce type stuff you were doing with those textbooks, or whether it's what you're doing today. And there's been a lot of trial and error and growing up in that process and learning from those mistakes. How has that trial and error helped you? And what are some lessons maybe that you could share about overcoming those obstacles?
Yeah, so making mistakes early as an entrepreneur was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It didn't feel like it at the time, and I thought the world was going to end.
Right.
But it gave me so many just valuable points where the same things come up over and over as an entrepreneur. And now when I get to a situation that I've already had and I've already seen the good and the bad, it's much easier to execute it at a very high level. So I'll give you an example. When I was starting my Amazon business, I finally started making sales, and I had hired a few different people, and I put in charge a manager of the day, and they were awesome, and I had finally found someone that I could trust. And so I did the classic entrepreneur mistake, and I loaded them up with everything, and they did the customer service, the orders, the listing, and then I had this one supplier that was incredible. They were selling so many products, so why would I ever need to find a second supplier when I had this one? It was a waste of my time, and I decided to take my first vacation, a well-deserved one, after not taking a vacation for pretty much a year. And so I went to Myrtle Beach with my friends, and I kid you not, on day one, I get 3 phone calls. It was a supplier telling me they didn't want to work with me anymore. It was the manager of the day, because I was hiring college students, saying that his parents wanted him to focus on college. So all the training that I had put into him was gone, saying he didn't want to work anymore. And then just to top it off, I get a call from my bookkeeper saying someone had filed a tax return in my name from the government and stolen $40,000 from the government, and my identity had been stolen. So I went from this unbelievable high, making more money than I ever had in my entire life, to, okay, everything I just worked for the past year is down the drain instantly. But it was an incredibly valuable lesson. I no longer hired one person and taught them to do everything. I departmentalized. I had a customer service team and an orders team and a listing team. So if someone quit, it wasn't the end of the world. It's always going to be a hassle, but it just wasn't that big of a deal. And then when I got back, I started contacting lots of different suppliers. And if you want to find out how, you can check out my social media post on how to use VAs to get suppliers. But all of a sudden, within 6 months, not only were we bigger than we were before, but we were protected. And that wouldn't be the last person that quit on me. It wouldn't be the last supplier that dropped me. But it wasn't as big of a deal because I diversified and I protected myself. And I'm so happy that I learned that lesson in year 1 and not in year 5 and 6.
Yeah. That's a really great story. And I think by hearing stories like that, people can look at it and go, okay, it's not the end of the world, but there's a lot to learn here and I can keep going. So it's really encouraging to hear stories like that and to see that you took a catastrophic event in your business and made it into something that's now sustained you throughout the course of growing that business and now new things.
Exactly. I mean, and that's just one of many lessons. You can actually check it out in my book, FreeUp Your Business. It's 50 lessons I learned as a young entrepreneur to help bootstrap multi-million-dollar companies. But yeah, I mean, every year is a lesson. There's still stuff that comes up, but you just keep basing it on past experience. And one thing that I love about FreeUp is by being able to meet all these different business owners from all over the world, you get to hear all these stories. And sometimes you don't have to experience it yourself to actually learn that lesson.
You've worked with massive companies like Google, PayPal, Skype, MailChimp, tons of other ones. If you are a solopreneur or a small business owner and you see the obstacles ahead of you of growing that dream or that idea, what are some lessons that you've seen from working with these companies that the smaller businesses, the entrepreneur, the solopreneur can start applying to their idea and dream and moving that forward?
Yeah, so I'm an incredibly persistent person. Like if you hadn't let me on your podcast, I would have probably bothered you for the next 2 years. So I'm always looking for bigger and better relationships. I'm looking for influencers, people who have been there, done that. Even if someone will just get on the phone with me, and I don't harass them. I don't think I'm that annoying. I'm very polite about it, but I'm very persistent. I show people that I'm an entrepreneur. I care, that there's an actual reason behind that I'm contacting them and that I can bring something to the table. And that doesn't mean you get 100% yes, but if you're a persistent person, at some point you're going to figure it out with that trial and error, with contacting different people, with that random connection you get out of the blue someday that makes it all click. And the people that just give up, or they send 100 sales pitches, they get no response, and that's the end of it. They wrap it up and go get a real job. That's just not what being an entrepreneur is all about. Right. So you just have to be persistent. Even if you're nothing, you don't fake it till you make it, but you act it until you become it.
That's really good. I know for me, when I was growing my business early on, I got to the point where I needed to bring some people onto my team. And it was, as a solopreneur, as a freelancer, incredibly overwhelming, and there was a lot of fear there. How can a company like FreeUp really help that small startup, that small business, alleviate some of those fears in that process of hiring?
Yeah, so it's the biggest conception that you're going to hire someone, they're going to come in, they're going to mess up your entire business and steal all your money and all that. And honestly, there's always going to be a risk. Even if you hire your best friend to sit right next to you for 40 hours a week, there's always a chance they do something stupid or something malicious. So if you're going to advance your business, you have to hire. Even if if you don't have a big budget and you're hiring people for small projects here and there, even if you hire an assistant for an hour or two a day to get that extra hour back so you can focus on expansion, or you're hiring full-time people, it's a risk that all entrepreneurs have to take, or eventually you just hit a limit. So knowing that there is a risk, keep in mind that the majority of people out there, freelancers, care a lot more about providing for their family, a lot more about growing their business, their brand, their reputation than they do about taking from you. And yes, you should still vet them and do everything you can to minimize risk, but the majority of people aren't going to do that. It's much more likely that you make a good or bad hire that impacts your company poor or well than some kind of security issue or someone making a huge deal. The majority of times, if a worker doesn't work out, you part ways and you move on, and you both move on to bigger and better things. So you have to understand that the risk isn't as high as people say. Obviously, self-promotion, use FreeUp, and we vet people well, but there just is that risk. And you have to accept that risk as an entrepreneur and get past it to start hiring and get where you want your business to be.
You've mentioned throughout the interview a couple times VAs, virtual assistants. For that person who is entrenched in their business, how can a virtual assistant really help their life?
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur, whether it's 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, eventually you just hit a limit. You can't work anymore. You need to take time off at some point. And a VA will get you those hours back. Even if you can afford someone an hour a day, a best example that I have, and I kind of mentioned this before, I have a VA that works from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. while I'm sleeping every morning. They clear out all the emails. I've taught them how to do it. They'll leave the 5 most important emails or whatever that only I can handle for me. So when I wake up, instead of spending the first hour or two of my day clearing out emails, I answer those 5 and I get right to work. All of a sudden I get an extra hour or two a day. That's 10 hours a week. That's a lot of time for me to grow my business. And just a lot of people don't realize that for $5 to $7 an hour, you can have a VA, whether it's data entry or QuickBooks or customer service or emails like me, you can get those hours back. So if you take anything from this podcast, go sit at a lake, get away from your computer, create a list of things that you do on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, and order them from easiest to hardest, and then start taking the easiest stuff off your plate. It becomes incredibly addicting and fun, and it makes the business more exciting again. If you do the same task over and over again for years, it really will lose its passion at some point. So really start to take things off your plate. plate, even if it's an hour a week, 2 hours a day, whatever it is, and start getting your time back, and you'll make more money by expanding your business, which will allow you to hire more and get even more time back.
Well, you just mentioned getting away a little bit, and you talked about that with that trial and issue that you had with you're going to Myrtle Beach. You have these 3 catastrophic things happen to your business all at the same time, first day of your vacation. And a lot of people will look at that and say, but if I leave my business, if I leave the grind, if I leave the hustle of every day, something's going to fall apart. And his story is just proof of that. Can you tell us how and why you can use getting away and refreshing as a benefit, and why people shouldn't be afraid of that?
Yeah. So for the first 6 months of starting a new company, you really don't get that much time off, and you need to take advantage of every possible second that you can get away. Even if that means creating this list on the weekend, or doing it when it's a slow, maybe it's a holiday weekend and you get that Monday off and business will be slow and you know it. But as you get bigger and bigger, you really have to put systems in place to give you time off. There's no entrepreneur in the world that can work 7 days a week nonstop without burning out, and it will start to hurt your business. The other side of it is when you hire people, a lot of times they're better at things than you are. When I hire someone to do my graphic design or to answer emails, eventually they get to the point where they're better than me, and all of a sudden they know what they're doing and it shows. So I mean, you have to find a way to get away. For me, I come up with my best ideas when I've had a few days away from the business. Usually my vacations start with day 1 is just like total relax, shut off the brain. Day 2, I'm like getting a little bit edgy and missing the business. And then by day 3, I have a clean slate and I'm thinking of, when I get back, let's implement this idea. Let's talk to Connor about this, whatever it is. So if I didn't take that time off, the business would stall. A lot of my best ideas wouldn't have happened.
You can tell in your voice you're passionate about this. How is passion? Yes. Well, as an entrepreneur, I think so many times we try to do things that are good ideas and not things that we're passionate about. How can we really use passion to feed the businesses that we're growing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not passionate about what you do, what's the point of being an entrepreneur? You can go out and get a real job, get a little bit more stability. For me, I love everything I'm doing, or I don't do it. I always say that life's too short to do things you don't want to do. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, that it really gives me that full flexibility where if I really don't want to do something, there's no one telling me to do it 99% of the time, unless it's my mom or my girlfriend. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it's all about. You have to find what it is. And a lot of times you don't know what you're passionate about. Like if you told me 6 years ago that I was going to be running FreeUp and that my passion is hiring, I would have been like, you're crazy. I don't like hiring. I like selling on Amazon. But your passions change and you don't really know what you're passionate about until you try certain things out. So I just encourage you to make sure that you actually enjoy running your business and to give yourself a chance to try different things to see where you really fit in and what you like doing.
Before we jump into some rapid fire questions, how can someone connect with you?
I'm very easy to access. If you go to freeup.com, you can book a time in my calendar. I'd love to talk to you about your business and how I can help. You can add me on Skype. You can join the online hiring mastermind group where we post a lot about hiring. Check out the FreeUp blog. My phone number is on almost every piece of material that goes right to me. Feel free to contact me there. And you can definitely check out all the other resources that we have, whether it's documents to help you or different things to outsource in your business that'll help you from point A to point B. So very easy to contact. Me and my team are really here to serve you, whether you're a client or you just have questions. Happy to help.
And we'll make sure to have all the links and everything like that in the episode notes itself, so they'll be easy to find.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And don't forget to mention this podcast when you sign up to get $1 off your first worker forever.
Now let's dive into some rapid fire questions. These are questions I ask every guest, and they're a lot of fun.
Let's do it.
What is one tip you would give someone with a big idea or a dream and they simply don't know where to start?
Yeah, break it down, small steps. Step 1 is usually some kind of research and maybe contacting, and that's really how you get off the ground. Contact different people to get their opinion, contact different businesses to see if there's even an interest, and try to break it down as much as possible.
Now, the world is a crazy place. We talked at the top of the episode about Orlando. There's, of course, stuff going on in Puerto Rico, and a lot of those things are outside of our control. But what's one change you'd like to see in the world?
Oh man, I would like people to just appreciate diversity more. I feel like people look at it as a bad thing. I don't want to go all political, but some of the best relationships I have are people that are total opposites of me, and I embrace that, and I learn so much from it. And that doesn't mean you have to copy people or do every single thing the way that people want to, but it also doesn't mean that you can't be friends with someone just because you have a different fundamental opinion on different things. Connor and I, we have the same core values, but we're incredibly different people, and I wish people celebrated that more. And if anyone got a chance to be in my internal teams meetings, it's a group of people that are all totally different that come together for a greater good.
That's really, really cool. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I was able to help thousands of business owners one way or another, because honestly, for me, that's what it's all about. It's so rewarding. I'm so fortunate to have a lot of success. I got into Amazon at the right time. I had so many things that just broke my way that helped me build a business. And I've hired so many people that have just made me look really, really good, that have made me a lot of money, that have helped me take it to the next level. And I want to help other people do that same thing, whether you're a freelancer building your freelance business or an Amazon seller or that doctor that doesn't know how to do marketing. I want to connect people that can help each other to grow and have this success that I've been able to have.
Who or what inspires you?
My parents inspire me. So I'll tell you why. My parents had worked for 40 years. They retired, and now they just travel the world. Total freedom. They saved up. I told you when I was little, I always wanted the fancy cars and a dog and all that stuff, but they were more focused on the big picture. How can we save? How can we make sure that our kids can go to college? And they, honestly, at the end of the day, they were right. They put that in the checkbox. They won that. I mean, they now travel the world. They have enough saved up. They're able to hang out with their friends and just enjoy the remainder of their life. And I mean, what's being an entrepreneur all about if at some point you don't get to receive the fruits of all your labor? And I feel like they planned it out and executed it at a very high level.
That's really cool. What are you currently reading, listening, or watching?
Good question. So right now I'm currently doing nothing because I just got back from 5 days at a conference, and then I spend all next week at a conference. But I'm working a lot with Adam Markell. I don't know if you know who he is. No. He's all about guest speaking. So okay. I had a privilege of meeting him at an event about a month ago. I'm going to San Diego to meet with him and work at his house. He's all about getting guest speakers, just improving your guest speaking, because I've been doing more and more in that, where I go to conventions and talk to people about hiring and processes and all that. So that's something I'm very passionate about. So I've been reading a few different books and podcasts all about improving your guest speaking. He has a book out called Pivot that I highly recommend. So that's really my focus once I get done with all these conferences.
I throw in every once in a while a travel-related wildcard question, and it changes for each guest. You live in Central Florida near Orlando.
Yep.
Disney World or Universal Studios?
I honestly, if you live here, you don't go there. And
okay.
Some of my friends will disagree. I've never been an amusement park person. It's one of those things that whenever someone visited me, I get dragged there. So if it's my Saturday, my Sunday, I'm not going to either one.
Final question I ask every guest. It's my favorite thing to ask people when I get to sit down with them. And it's this: what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
Ooh, that's a good one. I still want to be a professional baseball player, although I feel like that's not going to happen. So one thing that I want to do is just stay at, I always say, so there's three parts of life. You got the entrepreneurial, the entrepreneurial and the financial, then you got the social, and then you've got the health. And the health can be a combination of just eating right, working out, obviously staying away from any major illnesses, but just kind of staying on the peak of all three. I just had serious shoulder and knee surgery, so I'm kind of on the recover, trying to get back to where I was in terms of the health. On the social, being an entrepreneur, there's always a struggle, right? You work long hours, you interact with lots of different people as much as you can, but it's hard to maintain people outside of your business. So really being able to stay on all three and do all three at the highest possible level. My mom always says, work hard, play hard, is really the constant goal to make sure that you don't lean too much in one way or the other.
Nathan, it's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to dive more into FreeUp and see how it will even work for me and what I'm doing. So thanks for taking time out to share your story and give us some insights into how we can grow our businesses.
I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Once again, I want to thank Nathan for taking time out to share his story. You can find links to his website and social channels at jumblethink.com or in the episode notes. On Monday's episode, our guest is Mark Podolsky. He is an expert in buying and selling raw land. He also has one of the top-ranked podcasts in the investment category. It's a super fun episode, so make sure to check out that episode this Monday. Jumblethink is more than just a podcast, and we're super excited about this new idea camp, the virtual idea camp, that we're launching in the near future. I want to make sure you're the first to know about when it's coming up and all the details. Swing on over to jumblethink.com. On the homepage, when you scroll down, you'll find a place you can sign up for a newsletter. When you sign up for that, you'll be the first to know about our virtual idea camp. Thanks again for tuning into the Jumblethink podcast. It's been so much fun talking to Nathan and diving into the world of how you can grow your business. I hope it's encouraged you and given you some tips on how you can grow your own business and chase that big idea.
Les mères de famille, les enfants peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois. Lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.